Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Allison and I write YA Dark Fantasy. Today I'm going to be doing my December wrap-up. I'm starting new in the new year to start, well, December. I'm starting in December, but I want to start doing wrap-ups. I never got on the wrap-up train. I don't know why. I really like them, and my platform that I have on YouTube, I like to talk about books and movies and writing because that's my passion. So in this, I'm going to be talking about like a wrap-up of what I accomplished in my writing career, what I accomplished in my reading day-to-day life, and also the multimedia TV and movie that I have consumed, because I watch a lot of TV and movies throughout the months and I just want to talk about them. So I'm going to start with my writing. I didn't really do that great this let's be honest, I didn't do that great in December. I kind of gave myself a little bit of a holiday with writing because I did write a ton in November. I won NaNoWriMo, so I just needed to give myself a little bit of time. I wanted to spend December and my break off of school with my family and my friends and just not worry and stress about my writing. So I gave myself about a month off, which I don't think is a bad thing ever to do. I think that's actually really healthy for you to do, to give yourself a little bit of time off. It kind of refuels you, but that doesn't mean I wasn't working. I was working on formatting Dark Radiance, which that was a moment of itself, and I am doing one last round of beta readers with Dark Radiance, which I have recruited, and I'm going to start in January because I just feel like it's going to be easier for everyone to start fresh in January and get reading done. And I'm using Beta Books, the website Beta Books. If you've used that and you're a writer, let me know your experience with it. I just wanted to try it out with this last round of betas. I have about 7, I think, including people I know and people by following. So that's really exciting, and I'm proud that I've at least accomplished that this month of formatting and recruiting betas, because my brain after Nano needed a little bit of a break. Now onto books. I didn't read a lot this entire month. I again was spending a lot of time with friends and family, and I really just kind of slacked on my books. I read 3 books this month, and that's really low for me. I usually read between 5 and 7 books, but this month I was just not having it. Plus, the one book I currently finished was a reread, and it's a very large book, and I don't have time to dedicate all to it. So I'll start with that one. So the first book I read this month was Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. I'm actually rereading the Dark Artifice series before I go into Queen of Air and Darkness, just because I love these stories and I really wanted to revisit these first 2 books before Queen of Air and Darkness came out. I didn't have time, but I currently finished this one. It's honestly a 5-star read. Again, for me, Emma is my favorite heroine in the Shadowhunters world. I love Emma. She's just a badass and I love her. The first 2 books in the Dark Artifice trilogy, Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows, are actually my favorite of all of the Shadowhunter world books. I think it's because I love Emma and Julian so much, and I really, really like the Blackthorn children in this. I just love our ensemble cast in these, so I am really interested to see how the series plays out, and I have heard that it's ramping up for the last hours, the wicked powers, which I am excited for. So I'm just ready to go on to Lord of Shadows now. The next book I read was actually an ARC e-copy that I got from the publisher, and that was Even If I Fall by Abigail Johnson, which, let me tell you, I loved this book. It's probably my favorite book of 2018. Even though it comes out in 2019, it's the favorite of 2018 because it's just so unique and I love it so much. It's a contemporary, and I don't really enjoy contemporaries as much as a lot of people do. I think that sometimes they can be boring, and I just want to escape the real world and go off and frolic in Fantasyland. Nothing wrong with that. But I got sent this by the publisher, and I actually know Abigail Johnson. She is an Arizona-based author, and I've met her at a couple events. She's very, very nice. It's about a girl named Brooke, and a year ago her brother actually murdered his best friend. And it's all about the aftermath of that and what the family of the murderer goes through, which I think is really interesting because you never really see that side. Even in real life, you never see how the family of the person who's done it deals with it, because it's hard. Just by reading Abigail's book, it's very hard to grasp what you want to believe and what you don't want to believe. And along the way of Brooke's journey about dealing with her brother being a murderer, she also meets the brother of the best friend that was murdered. And they start a romance. And it's really interesting. I really, really enjoyed the book and the romance in it because it wasn't overbearing and it wasn't too lovey-dovey or unrealistic. It was just a really nice book. I started it at 10 p.m. and didn't put it down till 5 a.m. the next day. I was just looking for something that I could maybe read and then fall asleep. But no, this was a straight through read. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. I highly recommend going and checking out when it comes out in January. The next book I read this month was called The Dead Queens Club by Hannah Chapin. And oh my gosh, this was such an interesting concept. I also got this as an ebook ARC from the publisher, and oh my gosh, this book is so funny. It's described as a Mean Girls meets Henry VIII if Henry VIII was in modern day times and his wives were his girlfriends in high school. I personally describe it more as a Heathers because I'm a Heathers girl, but sorry. I love Heathers, and I thought this was very much a play on that. I think it's so funny. It's so fun to see these characters who shouldn't be in this century playing off of each other in high school, and Henry VIII and all of his different girlfriends, and we are told the story through Anne or Cleveland. She is Anne of Cleves in real life, but they call her Cleveland, and she's so funny and she's so witty, and I was laughing the entire time I read this book. I read it in 2 days. It was just a fun and fluffy read that I just really needed with all of the darker stuff I had been reading in the past couple months. It was just fun, and I really enjoyed it, and I had fun with the characters. I had fun finding out different mysteries tied into the books, and I don't know, I loved it so much. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. That's the thing, I read 3 books, but they were all 5-star reads for me. Even though one was a reread, I think that rereads are harder to get that 5 stars because sometimes you read it and you love it and love it and love it, and then you go back and read it and you're like, nah. At least that happens to me. Really good reading month, as in they were all 5-star books. So now we're gonna get into what I watched this month, and I have quite a lot of things, 4 or 5 things I've watched this month, and the first thing I watched was Outlander season 1 and season 2. I binged those episodes in a week, season 1 and season 2. Let me tell you, I'm in love with Outlander. Jamie Fraser is my new fictional husband. I love him so much. I love him and Claire. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to watch more. Actually, it was playing on the TV before I started filming, and it's just Jamie's face on my TV right now. It's a gorgeous sight. But if you haven't watched Outlander, it's about a woman named Claire, and she time travels back to 18th century Scotland, I believe it is, and that is where she meets Jamie Fraser, and she gets sucked into this world of the clans in Scotland when clans were a thing, but she knows all this stuff because she's from the future, and it's a romance and it's a historical fiction, and It's so good. I wouldn't recommend children watching it. Like, if you're under the age of 16, wouldn't recommend you watching it because it's on Stars, so it gets a little racy. But oh my gosh, I found my new obsession on the TV spectrum. The next thing I watched was the Mortal Instruments City of Bones movie. I hadn't watched this movie in a very long time, and I actually was going to meet Cassandra Clare that day, and I just wanted to watch it, and I actually really enjoyed it. Again, I enjoyed it the first time I saw it. I know it's not perfect. I know there's a lot of weird things, but I personally really enjoyed it. And I don't know, I'd probably give that movie a B+ because I enjoy it. I don't know, there's certain things I would change, but I don't know. I think that compared to the TV show is a lot better. And then the next thing I watched was season 1 of Shadowhunters. And while I don't particularly like this adaptation as much as the movie, I kind of told myself I wanted to step out of being a hardcore fan of the books. I wanted to watch the show for what it was worth. And although I do giggle and laugh hysterically at these stupid things they've done, I do now see why people like the show. I think that we needed to step back and look at it. I know it's being canceled. There's one more season coming out, and I would like to watch the full show, but let me tell you, the whole reason I have watched as much as I have, which I've watched like season 1 and part of season 2, and then I stopped because I was getting angry, but now I'm kind of over that. But the whole reason is Matthew Daddario. Oh my gosh, he makes me like Alec. And for the first 2 books in the Mortal Instruments, I did not like Alec. I thought he was stuck up. I hated him. I wanted him to go burn and fire and just go away, or just like leave, go be with Magnus. And I love Alec in this. He just brings something to Alec that's a snark, and I don't know. I fell in love with Matthew Daddario so much when I watched. The last 2 things I watched were Elf and the Santa Claus. I watched them on Christmas Eve with my nieces, and I just fell back in love with Elf. I love Elf. It's so funny. Will Ferrell in that is so funny. I also love the Santa Claus. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies. It's a classic that I like to watch, and we watched it on Christmas Eve. So those were the things I watched, and that's it. That is my wrap up of this month. I hope to have a better month next month with my reading and writing, just because this month was a little slow, but with the holidays it's kind of to be expected. I hope you all had a happy and safe holiday, and I will see you probably next year, loves. Bye.